I just looked at Blackboard. I have 50 assignments in this one class to grade of yours. So if you guys would, please stop turning things in.
Deal.
It's driving me crazy. Drives you guys crazy for a little bit, and then it becomes my problem. Much. I give myself, I'm like, I do 5 a day, I do 6 a day, and then just chip away. Robbie, how you?
Good. How are you?
Ready to be out of this quarantine. So I'm done with it. The Robbie, for you and Aaron Dorr and Mercedes, they are listing you guys as spring 22 admits into our grad program. But technically we're seeing you guys as fall, but it's just their own language and admissions. All right, he's in the waiting room. I'm gonna go ahead and accept him. Hi, Brian, can you hear me?
I can hear you. How are you?
Doing good. I've got you here with our senior sport management seminar students, and we're really excited. I know they're going to be thinking about questions as you're talking to, and so I look forward to this conversation. So thank you for being available today.
Of course, my pleasure. Yeah, great to spend the this next hour with you guys. I appreciate the time. I guess to kind of set the table. I mean, so just so I understand correctly, we have the class full of seniors here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. And this is a sport management program or a sport management course.
Yep, the sport management program. These are our seniors. A couple of students that will graduate in December, so they're either going to graduate in a couple weeks or in December. And then I should add too, we've got some student athletes. Women's basketball is trying to join us, but they're actually at the NCAA Division II National Tournament today. So if you see a couple students join us in a little bit in full uniform or coming off the practice court, that's why. We also have a soccer player that was crossing his fingers that there'll be Wi-Fi on the bus. And if that was the case, men's soccer is traveling. And then we have a women's soccer player with us today that around, I think she said 3, she's in uniform already, that she'll be heading to the bus for their game.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll hit some good points for you early before you have to take off there, Amber. Yeah, I enjoy doing this. I've been to a few of the universities in the local area, and had similar conversations, and normally it's in person. So this is the first time that I've had a class virtually. So it's the world we live in now, and as you can see, I'm at home just like everyone else is. It looks like so. I guess without further ado, I guess I'll set the table by going ahead and giving a little bit about my background and what I do for Tepper Sports and Entertainment. So first of all, my name is Brian Pille. I'm HR manager with Tepper Sports and Entertainment. And for those that I guess aren't as familiar, Tepper Sports and Entertainment is the parent company for the Carolina Panthers and Charlotte Football Club, as well as Bank of America Stadium. So before everyone probably knew us just as the Carolina Panthers. Obviously, we're growing as an organization, and we're venturing into other sports and other entertainment enterprises. So, I guess to get started, actually, I wasn't always in HR. I kind of had a unique path to where I'm at. And I actually was a student athlete. I played all sports growing up. Played football, basketball, baseball in high school, and then in college I went to a Division III school in right outside of Cleveland, Baldwin Wallace College, and played football and baseball there. And while I was there, I had a couple majors. I was communications and sport management. So was lucky enough to graduate there in 4 years. Ended up playing just 2 years of football, but all 4 years of baseball, and then went on. I was lucky enough to secure a job in my field right out of school. Started working if anyone's from Northeast Ohio, we're right there in the snow belt. We get a lot of snow, and it's gray for about 6 months of the year. And what's pretty common up there are indoor sports complexes, and that's where I was able to secure a job early on. It was actually an indoor soccer complex, and as a facility manager there, managing the different programs. And just when you're a facility manager at a small rec center like that, you kind of wear multiple hats, and that's what I was doing. I got exposure and everything from marketing to the best way to clean the bathrooms. You know what I mean? So you learn it all. Eventually I got to a point, I was there for about 5 years, got to a point where, it was the point in the job where you almost you felt like you got everything you can get out of it type thing. And I ended up making the decision to move south. And that's exactly what I did. I always wanted to. Kind of took a risk there, and ended up coming down south here to South Carolina, and going to Winthrop for grad school. Went back to school. Doubled down in sport management, ended up with a sport management master's as well, sport administration. And when I was there, I was a graduate assistant, and I was a full-time student at the time. I wasn't able to lock down a job, so I like I said, jumped all in on school. Was a grad assistant, but was grabbing on every opportunity I had, working with the athletics department. I was the student SID for the baseball team. I was I was just anytime a professor would send me something, I as an opportunity, even if it was just volunteer or whatever it was, I was on board. I wasn't saying no to anything. And one of the opportunities that came my way was an opportunity to work just game days at Bank of America Stadium within the guest relations department. With the Panthers, one of the nice things that they have is a lot of their game day staff was in-house at the time, and that was a great opportunity for me to again get involved with exactly where I wanted to be, was with the pro football team. And at this point was the very ground level. So just started out working game days, which eventually evolved to working a little bit throughout the off season, to the point where I was working there 40 plus hours a week, just as a part-time employee at the time, in the process of actually hiring that staff. I got real granular with the different processes for bringing employees on board, learning the culture, or training and orientation for this new staff. Luckily I was able to impress enough people that when an opportunity came in HR, I was a suitable candidate for it, and interviewed for it. And with the exposure I had to hiring and training staff, it was a good fit. It's funny. Like I said, it was kind of a weird path. I was all sports and sport management, and somehow I found a path onto HR, which HR is a funny thing. It's a lot of times you end up doing human resources work and you don't even know it. And I didn't even know it at the time. I was just trying to get our stadium ready to host Panther games, and here I am in an administrative human resources role. So now what I do mostly with the organization, like I said, I'm an HR manager. We're a small HR team, and there's only 3 of us, and a lot of what I do deals with talent acquisition and management. I mean, obviously, with the small team, you got to be you're a generalist in what you do. So I kind of, again, wear multiple hats, but I do a lot of the staffing side of things. So that's my wheelhouse. And obviously, last year was a unique year where I was spending a lot more time on other things other than staffing. So it's good to be back into that I guess we'll get into it a little bit, but getting back into that, I think we're starting to see a shift in the way things are going, and it's good to be back into the staffing side of things. So so with that, like I said, I've been with the organization now about 8 years now in those varying roles. It's an interesting path for me, I've seen the organization at its peak and at its floor, and I feel like right now we're on the upward swing of things here again. I've seen a Super Bowl, and I've seen a was a 5 or 6-10 season, and it's funny how that the ripple effects our season has throughout the organization. It permeates, even though it's you aren't directly impacted. It impacts everyone through the organization. I just want to, I guess, quickly before we, I want to, I like a platform where we're interactive and you guys can ask questions and I'll answer them. It's a little easier for me. So, one of I guess just a couple of things that I'm assuming will come up. This is a time of year where we do a lot of this type of work. I like being hands-on and interactive with being, I guess, in tune with the different universities. Because I was in your seats at one point too, and I know the anxiousness and the anxiety about what you have your graduation date coming up, but what's next. So I like I said, I'm empathetic to your situation and what you're looking for. So to hit a couple things, I think one of the things that's important that I always get when I talk to students is, what sets you apart? What sets you apart from other candidates as you're looking for jobs as you get out of school here? I think one of the fundamental things, I see, dozens, hundreds of resumes every day. I get people reaching out every day, and I think that the one thing that sticks out to me the most, and again, this is just me. It obviously will vary from HR professional to HR professional and organization. But I think I don't know that enough candidates and students spend enough time tailoring your resume and cover letter. Meaning your those documents should not be static. They should not be I know a lot of these platforms like Indeed and I think Team, they make it so easy to apply. Meaning the information just it's there and you just hit submit. However, that doesn't tell me who you are and why you may be why you may be qualified for this position. It doesn't hit those highlights of the work that you've done specifically specifically related to this job description that would make you qualified for this job. And that's one of those things that I wish candidates would spend a little more time on is tailoring those resumes to fit the job description as closely as possible, because that's one of those things it goes a long way, believe it or not. Obviously there's always if you go to a resume writing class, people talk about making your information clear and concise, and I agree with all that. I need to know who your name is, what your contact information is, and most importantly what your experience has been. And some people are in and hopefully I'm not stepping on any toes of what you've been taught, but some people have the 1-page rule and things like that. That's not as important to me, to be honest. The most important thing to me is the content. If it's 2 pages and toward the bottom of it you have some work that you've done at an ice cream parlor when you were in high school, that's not going to give me much. So stuff like that, leave the irrelevant stuff off. I want to do the stuff that's kind of market you the best. So that's one thing, and that's resumes. Resumes, they're a great platform for telling and potential employers the quantifiable information of what you've done, meaning the degrees that you have, the jobs that you've held, the other certifications and clubs that you've taken part in. Now, the tough part about resumes is it doesn't tell some of the soft skills that you may embody, right? Like some of the you'll see on almost every single job description or posting that organizations want someone that has good communication skills, good organizational skills, good they want someone that pays attention to detail, things like that. And those are tough to tell on paper, and those are things that if and when you are given an opportunity to talk with an employer, whether it's virtually on the phone, that's where those things are going to come through, and you're able to sell those pieces of yourself in an interview. Like I said, there are some times that if you've taken certain courses or training things in those areas, definitely put them on the resume. But like I said, the intangible stuff, when you do actually get an interview with someone, yeah, I'm sure at some point in there you're talking about, your experience and your education and things like that. But you're also, to the employer, they're trying to make sure that you are a good fit for the organization, culture fit. And that's some of the stuff they're trying to pick up on. So make sure you sell that stuff when you're talking to potential employers. What else? There's one of the things that when this is kind of I've always said this. I've been talking to, like I said, the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, talking to us, classes like yourselves and students like yourselves. And one of the things that's most important, everyone always reaches out and they want to, and sports is a tough industry, right? Where everyone wants to land a job, as let's say a football operations, manager right out of school. And it doesn't always happen that way, and I hate telling people that because it can be crushing, it can be devastating to some people, but it's true. Sports is a tough, it's a competitive market. And one of the things that students like yourselves needs to be willing to do is start at the ground level. And not that I'm a perfect, perfect model for this, but that was one of the things that was important to me when I started, that I knew I wanted to work in sports. I knew that I was going to have to embrace any opportunity that came my way, not say no to anything. And then hopefully along the way, I'm able to, impress enough people, because everyone's watching, like everyone's noticing, even when you're volunteering, even when you're interning, you're doing seasonal type work. One thing I noticed in sports are small organizations for the most part. For us, for example, we're 225 employees. It's small, full-time employees. It's a small organization. And with that, organizations always are working cross-departmentally. And if an intern comes in there and they're working hard, they're doing all the right things, they're accomplishing all the tasks that they're supposed to do, they're going to make a good impression not only on their manager but other managers. And when they go to hold their weekly meetings or whatever it is, they're going to say, well, you know what, Amber, she's a rock star. She's out there, she's doing it all, and she's going above and beyond. So that's don't be afraid to start at the ground level. Don't get scared off by game day or seasonal or intern or things like that. Because if you really truly want to work in sports, honestly, that's where the journey begins for a lot of these jobs. I was another important thing is, even if you are doing seasonal type work, that's ultimately, if you get enough of it, it's going to look great on a resume. It's going to make you more marketable, down the road, because education is great. And I love it. Like I said, I went back to school. I just went back and got a certification. I think it's great to continue to develop, your personal development is always important. But your experience is what really sells you to the employers, to be honest. I mean, especially in sports. And I think sports is maybe a little unique in that. I think sports, practical experience is essential. Working on those internships. Hopefully, it's a part of your curriculum that you have to get out there and do them, and or if not, you're doing it on your own, because it's really important. But yeah, I think with that, I'm gonna, I'll cover some other stuff, but I feel like I'm talking a lot. I want to go ahead and open it up to you guys.
Brian, I just want to brag on the students for a second, and it's really a curriculum that I inherited when I came to Catawba. But our program has an apprenticeship where they work 40 hours in the athletic department. It has a practicum where they work 80 hours that can be on or off campus. And then it has a 250-hour internship that is required to be off campus. And then in addition to that, majority of our classes within sport management have built-in ELOs, experiential learning opportunities, that require the students to engage industry. And those could be, we're constantly, in a non-COVID year, we're constantly sending these to our students. It could be from Greensboro to Charlotte, a lot of sports tourism, a lot of event management. And so a lot of these students, they'll tell you they've worked ACC football championship, they've worked the ACC basketball media day, they've worked Division III national championships in Greensboro, they've worked the Big South, both media days. So I'm really proud of them. They've really taken advantage of experiencing their education and putting both brands and experiences I think Henderson's on here somewhere. Last year, the Cannonballers, which we have a great relationship with, their mascot was unavailable. The actor inside the mascot outfit to be in the mascot, so they called us up and said, "Do you have any students that could jump in there last minute?" The actor we hired is actually going to be with the Hornets today. So it wasn't Henderson, but it was another student in our program. He literally knows the mascot before I do and anybody else because he's wearing it. They're about to do a mascot reveal. Henderson, who plays on our baseball team, they put him in the new uniform. And when they pulled the curtain back of what the new mascot is, there's Henderson Lentz wearing the uniform. He's walking around, people signing autographs because they think he's one of the ball players for the Cannonballers. So I could go across this room of the students in here, of the experiences they've done. So I'm very proud of them for some of those things. So that was just my brag for a second as a professor. But yeah, I'll let you guys, any questions you guys have.
Oh, let me open it up here. I guess break dice a little bit. I'd like to hear a little bit about some of. I heard a little bit about the ACC championship and stuff like that. I mean, that's obviously, you know, it happens at our house. So I'd like to hear some of the other experiences that you guys have had.
I can start off with the first question, but I guess I can tell you some of my experiences first. I'm on my third internship right now, actually. Right now I'm with Three Rivers Land Trust. They're a conservation agency in Salisbury, but I've also interned with Pro Sport Management. Amber's actually there right now. They're a boutique sports agency they represent a bunch of NASCAR drivers, golfers, basketball players, soccer players, just about everything. And then my other internship was with the Katuitt Cavaliers in the Cape Cod Baseball League. So that was a fun one. But my question is, what is one piece of advice you wish you could have had when you first graduated college, as far as your job search went?
One piece of advice, huh? One piece of advice. You know, here's the thing that's tough, and you guys are going to be entering a job market that's during an unprecedented time. So you guys have a unique set of challenges. Actually, I was thinking about this earlier today. I'll be interested to see, you know, when you all graduate, what the market will be like. It may be a favorable market for you, meaning that organizations are opening up again. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about our I guess, employment opportunity landscape, but I feel like you all may be going into a market where sports employers and entertainment employers are you know, posting jobs a lot, and so it may work out in your benefit. But with that being said, you know, it's challenging out there, and when you do get a job somewhere, I think one of the best pieces of advice. So I actually did get this advice, and so it's not something I wish I had, but it's probably one of the most important pieces of it is, when you know, coming out of school, you're expected to be a professional right away. Like you get a job, you're even though you're young in your career, you're, you know, just right out of school, you're a professional at that point. And sometimes you just need to keep that in mind. Meaning, especially if you're in sports. You're fortunate to let's say work for a professional team, you know, you probably grown up a sports fan, and that's why you guys have selected this as your, you know, as your area of study. One of the most important things is sometimes you need to be able to remove that piece of you of being a fan and to focus on being a professional, because trust me, I've seen that some interns and entry-level employees that aren't able to do that, and they don't last long in the industry or with the organization. So you know, always keep in mind, you know, your goals of why you want to be there. I think another thing that I've heard, and it's great advice, is you know, one of the biggest challenges I think when a young professional enters the market or enters an organization is, all of a sudden you got to learn to interact with adults, if you will, you know, other you know, professionals that have been there for a long time, and that's a skill set. It really is. I mean, that area of professionalism, it takes it takes some fine tuning and takes some experience. And if you're able to kind of coach, get some coaching or learn about that professionalism aspect of things, about, how to write an email, how to greet somebody, and, things like that, just small business acumen, it goes a long way, and it'll make you more respectable as a professional in the field.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my name is Luke. I've done a good bit of stuff in disc golf, working with a retail and bar room in Charlotte. Probably going to be going there after graduation and everything. You kind of mentioned earlier, answering Addie's question about the job market and how it might be a little bit more favorable for us. In my personal opinion, I think we also have a great advantage because a lot of us have gone through all these hours in these really difficult times. I was wondering for one, if you agree with that. And if you do, what kind of advantage, or how much of an advantage is it really, just as far as hiring goes?
Good question. 100%. It's in your favor that the university has made that a part of the curriculum, and that you all have done those hours and followed through on it. 100%. And like I had mentioned this earlier, I'm a firm believer. Like I said, education is great. Experience is better when you're looking to get jobs in sports, to be honest. I mean, I just think that the more you can put on your resume, that will make you marketable when you apply for job. I mean, I've always been that way. Like I said, I had my fair share of internships. I worked with the Greater Cleveland Sports Commission, the Cleveland Indians, I had another, I feel like I interned all over the place, and I feel like that really did help. And I'd imagine it'd be the same for you. Again, the whole thing about you all entering a favorable job market, that's just me talking. I don't have any facts behind that. I just see the way things are trending. And I just, as the world starts to open up again, hopefully, eventually organizations are going to need resources to execute these events again. And hopefully that's in your favor.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, I'll share something that I share with students, and I wonder if you would agree. And it's kind of weird coming from an academic, but I tell students in the roles I've been in hiring people, I've never asked somebody their college GPA. And I do think your GPA is a reflection of your work ethic, but that's just it. It's your work ethic. If your work ethic, if you busted your tail and got a 3.0 and that was your best work ethic, be proud of that. There are people that have 3.5s who are lazy because learning comes easy to them. But I know it's a little weird to hear an academic say GPA, unless you're going to law school or to med school, but it is a reflection of your work ethic. So I wonder, as you have looked at, those, I'm not saying don't put it, but at the same time, that's not something a hiring managers are looking at specifically.
100% agree. There's never been a time where I've looked at a GPA and said, "Oh, that's not going to work here." No, honestly, to your point, at the end of the day, what the organization is looking for is, it says, graduated and the date, or it doesn't even need to say the date. It just needs to say completed. You know what I mean? So the whole GPA thing, it's funny. And it may be different for everyone, but my GPA in undergrad was much lower than it was in grad school. You know what I mean? So it's kind of changed, based on what you're pursuing. And so I don't know that it's a big contributor. I think at the end of the day, it's the overall accomplishment of achieving that degree. And hopefully that like you had mentioned, that work ethic has opened up doors in other places along the way. Yeah.
I have a question. I'm Amber Hand, and like Addie said, I've worked at Pro Sport Management for this semester. Before that, I was at the Myrtle Beach Pelicans as a promotions and community relations intern, working for them. But my question is, some of us are looking to maybe go to get our master's degree or go to grad school straight out of school. Do you think it matters the order in which we do things, where we should go get experience first and then get a degree, or get a degree and then go get experience, or what's your suggestion there?
So first thing I'll do is I'll speak from personal experience here. I had a gap, right? I graduated, went to the workforce, and then decided to go back to school. I will say, if you take that approach, it is much harder to get back into school mode, if you will. So that first of all, that's a challenge there. So the next piece of it is, I honestly don't know that it matters. I will say the biggest benefit that I saw from going back to school was the ability to have resources available to me that will help me land a job. So, I'd mentioned getting, when I was there, I had, an academic advisor and career services that I could reach out to and bounce things off and say, hey, what do you guys think? Have you heard, is anything available? I was sent, obviously, that opportunity just to work game days and to have more people vouch for you along the way. I just having those resources available. Hopefully you all are leveraging those while you have them, and continue to foster those relationships, because it'll be beneficial down the road. So I don't know that it matters the order that you go in. I think it's beneficial. It certainly is beneficial to have that advanced degree for sure. But like I said, the most valuable thing for me was those resources that I had available to me while I was doing it.
Thank you.
Sorry, you can probably hear my kids in the background. Apologize. It's the world we live in now.
Ryan, I wonder if you could, you said it as well, like you've kind of had a career industry change. I think it's possible some of our students are a little intimidated or a little fearful that they can't change. Like, okay, I have to know what I'm going to do when I graduate college for the rest of my life, and that it's okay to want to pursue community relations and then pivot. It's okay to want to go into sport marketing or event management and then pivot, but just getting in, it's okay that at some point you may go, I thought I would love this, I didn't. But I've got some experience on my belt that I can still pivot within the sport industry. I think sometimes that's an intimidating thought for them.
100%. What you'll find is, especially with a sports organization, again, because there's such cross functionality between the different areas of work. A lot of the skills that you develop, and let's say you land a job as a communications intern. A lot of those skill sets and skills that you develop throughout that internship are transferable. I mean, a lot of them you'll be able to utilize in different areas of the building. Communications, you'll be great in community relations and ticket sale. I mean, you aren't pigeonholed into one area by any means. For example, we had an HR intern start with a couple of years ago. She had the extent of her HR experience at the time was she had taken a couple of HR classes, and she was sport management and was starting to take some have a serious interest in sport management, and she came on board as an intern. Now she loves HR. So, and now she's pursuing a career in HR. So I think you'll figure out what suits you, as well as and what you're interested in throughout these internship and these experiences. So kind of let let the experience take you where you want it to. And like I said, you shouldn't be fearful of it. I'd embrace it, to be honest. I don't think, like I said, you aren't held down to the first job that you get.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I have another question. Kind of going off of the, the experience requirements we were kind of just talking about. We often see on these like applications, they say you're required to have a couple of years of experience or master's degree is preferred. When we're coming out of college with a bachelor's degree, how much of a deterrent would you say that should be or shouldn't be when we're applying for jobs?
Should never be a deterrent. You should, if you're interested in the job and you feel you're qualified, apply. Now, when you see, there's a big difference when you're looking at job descriptions between required and preferred, right? Just because a master's degree is preferred doesn't necessarily mean that's required. So if you do have a bachelor's degree and you apply for a job, you're still technically qualified. However, there may be some candidates in there that may have, like I said, an advanced degree, And but what I'm saying is you're ultimately still technically qualified for the job if you apply, and that's what's required. So don't let it be a deterrent for you, especially if you have the experience to support that education, right? Again, I always want to go back to that, because those internships that you had, highlight those, and that's what elevates people, to be honest. I mean, there's very few jobs in our organization that require a master's degree. It's either going to be a leadership position or a highly specialized role, analytics, something like that. Like it's got to be, for most jobs, especially, and I'm assuming most organizations, sports organizations, bachelor's degree is going to be sufficient, a qualification to get you in the door.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question as well.
Yeah.
So my name is Caroline, and so this might be better in the US right now, but I'm from Germany and I'm looking into internships currently for the summer.
Mhm.
But since we're still in a lockdown, it's kind of hard. Like, not many companies are offering anything because of financial aspects or because they don't have any work to do. So what would you say if I don't get an internship? Is there like any advice I still can keep like working on my resume and like keep being engaged with the industry?
Definitely. Don't. Yeah. Just because you don't land a job right out of school doesn't mean to stop doing those things. You definitely got to look. And as I mentioned, I do see us coming around on this thing, and I do think there's going to be opportunities available. So, stay connected to your network, because I think that's a big thing, is developing and keeping track of your resources that you have at your disposal. The second thing is stay in tune with employment pages, things like that. Not all organizations use Teamwork. We do, but our employment pages are our best resource, and that's Panthers.com and CharlotteFootballClub.com. That's both of those are I'm the one. Once a hiring manager comes to me, says, "Hey, I have this job requisition. Can you go ahead and get it posted?" I'm the one who personally goes ahead and puts it on the employment page. So people are always asking, is everything that's open truly on the website? And I can truthfully say yes. I mean, anything that's available externally is on our website. So and to piggyback off that, is not only that, it's in this, I could say it's for our organization, is all those resumes get seen too. All those if you apply for a job, our hiring managers are going through those. As daunting as it may be, it's our hiring managers are very good about making sure we have a robust review and selection process. So I guess I was getting a little bit off topic from your question, but yeah, don't let not getting a job right out of school be a deterrent. There's options available, right? There's not just, if you don't get a full-time job, there's other opportunities. There's seasonal type employment. There's intern type employment. There's people are going back to school. There's things that you can do to stay connected within your area of interest, and hopefully it'll pay off in the long run.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I have a question. My name is Emma. So I'm currently working an internship with Duke Sports Information. So I'm really trying to get a graduate assistant position in sports information. So I was wondering, let's say, you get an interview and then it's kind of been a while since you've heard back from that employer. How long would you say to wait to email that employer? And then also when you're applying for a job, would you say to email that employer when applying to the job, or just not contact them at all?
Great questions. I love these etiquette questions, because if you ask 10 HR professionals, you'll probably get 10 different responses for the most part. And then there probably is a rule of thumb. I'll give you my personal view on it. So the answer to your first question of, if you get an interview and you haven't heard back right away, my first piece of advice is make sure one of the questions that you ask that employer is timeline. and hopefully they give that right away. But if they don't give you a timeline, make sure that is one of the last questions that you end up with is, when do you plan on this position being filled? And I would obviously once you hop off the call or hop off the interview or head home, follow up. Always follow up within a day. Make sure you send a thank you email to everyone that you talk to. That's important. That goes a long way, because otherwise sometimes, depending on the amount of interviews, sometimes they may forget who they talked to right away. So definitely follow up. Now, I wouldn't follow up again with, remember that window, that timeline. Sometimes, I wouldn't follow up again within that timeline. Now, if you haven't heard anything past when they said they were hoping to have the position filled, I would certainly follow up and say, hey, just wanted to check on the status. I really enjoyed talking with you. It grew my interest in this role and in this organization. Was just hoping to get an update, and I think that's completely fair, especially if it's outside that timeline. And then, so you were asking about a follow-up email after an application to a job. Did I understand that right?
Yes, that's correct.
I don't know that it hurts, and this is where. So here's where it's challenging. We're a small HR team. I'm the one pretty much handling anything that's staffing related, and I'm guessing a lot of sports organizations are the same way. If I got an email from every single person that applied to a job, I wouldn't be able to do anything else ever. So, like I said, and it happens. So, what I mean, so sometimes I don't know that it hurts, but I don't know that I don't know that it hurts, but I also don't think it's what's going to get you a job right away just by following up after sending your application is what's going to speak the most volume. The stuff that's on the resume and on the application is what's most important, not the follow up afterward.
Thank you.
Of course.
Ryan, to kind of follow up on Emma's question,
Yeah.
is there a difference between reaching out to HR after you've posted and reaching out to the potential hiring manager? Is one, like, would you have responded to that question any different if it was the hiring manager versus HR? That's
a great point. If you were to reach out to hiring manager, I bet you that is definitely a better approach than reaching out to HR. Because I'm seeing everything across all departments. I'm seeing it all. If you were to follow up, if you were able to find the information of who's the lead in that area, I would, just to let them know, hey, I applied, and thank you for considering me. Something along those lines. Just it would highlight who, it puts them on notice to say, hey, I applied for the job. I certainly think that's a better approach than reaching out to HR. Absolutely, good point.
Here, I have a question.
Yes.
My name's Henderson Lentz. I play college baseball here, and I've done several of those ELOs like Dr. Agar was talking about, and I'm looking to do an internship this summer again as well. But regarding an interview process, what are some things that you look at during an interview that will help you stand out and separate yourself from the group as far as traits or soft skills or things like that you look for?
Good question. So one thing that stands out to me right away, and there's a few things that when we're interviewing someone, like I said, we've already liked what we've seen on paper, right? We like that, and that's how you got your interview. So now we want to hear more about, we want to hear what's on paper in color a little bit, and to expand on that. We also want to hear a little bit about those things that you just mentioned. Is Henderson a good cultural fit for this role and for this organization? So what we're doing as a panel is we're trying to that you're answering the questions as concisely as they've been asked. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you'll ask a question and this happens is the candidate doesn't exactly address the question, and sometimes you don't get the panel or whoever it is doesn't exactly get what they wanted out of that question. So knowing and understanding the questions that you've been asked, answering them directly and clearly, being, what we're looking for, especially from entry level, is confidence, professionalism, someone who's an effective communicator. If you're a hiring manager or someone that's on a panel, you're looking for someone that A is qualified for the job. That's the most important thing. But that you can see that you are going to like working with and for, and you know what I mean. So that those are one of those things that it's I think you're trying to measure some of the intangible type things that you don't see necessarily on the resume. As you mentioned, some of those soft skills are the most important thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. What else? Well, yeah.
Sorry, I've got a question. I don't think these students realize how quickly they'll be on the other side of the table, actually leading interviews and hiring people, because I know they're all going to be successful in the career paths they go in. And I was shocked in my own career path how quickly all of a sudden I'm on the other side of the room. I'm the one accepting applications. I'm the one leading a search. And I wonder what advice you could give to all of us. How quickly that really does become, that you are the one, everyone's just trying to get a job, and boom, all of a sudden you're in a hiring position. What advice would you have for us as we lead searches, as future leaders here?
That's great. That's great. So it's an interesting dynamic. Absolutely. Everyone, I guess quickly raise your hand if you've had an interview, been a part of an interview, you've been interviewed, right? Probably almost everyone in the room, right? It's a nervous experience, right? Like you're going in there not knowing necessarily what to expect. You're trying to hopefully market yourself the best as possible. It's tough. I will say I was almost more nervous during giving my first interview. You know what I mean? It's a whole different dynamic. You're hoping to say all the right things. You're hoping to, it's just it's weird how that happens. But there's certainly an art to it. I think repetition is one. It makes you better at it. There's a couple of things that you always need to consider when you're leading an interview process. Most importantly is the compliance piece of this. The piece of things is making sure everything is organized, uniform, and meaning that there's no ambiguity between one interviewing one candidate versus another. Everything is consistent. That none of the questions are considered. They aren't considered discriminatory in any way. You're asking questions that are specifically related to the job. And there's no other, like I said, there's no other questions outside of that. A big thing that we always tell our hiring managers is we need to make sure we make appropriate documentation. That's always key, is making sure you're documenting, throughout the whole process. And so that if we ever need to look back at something and when we're trying to evaluate, candidate A and candidate B, we can look back at our notes and say, oh yeah, candidate B was definitely more qualified. Look at everyone's scores. So yeah, being organized, being consistent, being fair, and then obviously good documentation. That's key. It's really what we teach our hiring managers as well.
Thank you, Brian.
Of course. What I was going to mention was, so just to talk quickly about our employment landscape at Separate Sports and Entertainment. We're fortunate. We're starting to hire again, which is a great feeling. 2020 put a big wrench in things, because we're a growing organization. As I mentioned, we have the Panthers. We announced the implementation, or we implemented the new soccer franchise, Charlotte FC, which will kick off next year, and Bank of America Stadium, which will have an enhanced events and entertainment component to it. More concerts. You've probably seen a lot in the news about different concerts and large scale events coming there. Unfortunately, that timeline got pushed out a little bit, but I think we're on the pendulum is swinging in the right direction now, and we're starting to see opportunity come along with that. Opportunity comes in various forms, both from a full-time perspective, as well as from, an internship and seasonal type perspective. So if you went to our employment pages today on Panthers.com, you wouldn't see a whole lot. I do anticipate that changing here in the near future, especially from an internship perspective. This is the time of year when we start posting our internships for the upcoming year. And really our internships, the departments that we hold them in are pretty vast. I mean, everything from athletic training all the way down to, ticket sales and stadium operations. So if you went to our website, you can kind of see what we typically have available, and when they are available, you'll be able to click on them and apply. With our soccer team, we're starting to post a lot of those positions now. Obviously, we were set to kick off really this week, but obviously we were able to get it pushed out a whole year. But we kind of put our whole hiring strategy on hold. But now we got our foot on the gas again. So we're starting. If you went to our page today, you'd see a few full-time positions available there, and then I'd anticipate coming this winter, you'd start to see some of our intern and seasonal type work for that organization as well. So I guess, like I said, stay tuned to those employment pages. There's, I think there's exciting things to come. We're a growing organization, and as I mentioned, we're going to need some resources to help support that growing model. So stay tuned. There should be some more to come.
Brian, I was kind of wondering like a little bit more about your position specifically, like as an HR manager. So like from the outside looking in, it kind of looks like there's a lot of compliance and a lot of hiring, like following rules and things like that. But I was kind of wondering what else do you do like and go through on a day-to-day basis, like especially I guess specifically within a sports organization too.
Yeah. HR is an interesting role. It's a very broad role. And I say that in the fact that a lot of what I do is staffing, talent acquisition, and management. Now some other auxiliary things that I do that I focus on and that are areas that that I touch are we have there's a technology side of things. We have a human our systems. So our basically like our employee portals. I'm leaving that, our performance review process, benefits, and you mentioned compliance, employee engagement. So keeping the different events and things like that we host for the organization, that all funnels through HR. Employee relations is a big thing. So we're always trying to make sure we're keeping our employees happy, and if there's situations that we need to address, we're addressing them appropriately. There's compensation, making sure everyone's paid appropriately, and things like that. And I'm speaking very generally because it gets real granular real quick. Within a sports organization, I mentioned you got to be a generalist, meaning you got to have a general knowledge of all those different areas, because I get questions on those things daily. If you went to a big organization, let's say I went to Duke Energy, they have verticals for all those specific areas. There'll be a compliance person, there'll be a staffing person, there'll be a compensation person. So, but there's only 3 of us, so we got to do it all.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Brian, my name is Logan James. Right now I'm currently an intern at NJCAA. I've also worked with the Carolina Panthers as a mobile ticket operations. So I work with Dylan. I've also worked with Charlotte Hornets and a lot of ELOs and stuff like that, just volunteering. Can you explain some of the benefits that are kind of provided as to be a full-time employee, as this is like kind of all new to us? So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, mobile ticketing team. So that was a new ticket or a new position that we implemented back in 2019. That was an area of focus for us. We basically took our whole ticketing, and there was no more paper tickets, right? And obviously that was a tough position to staff.
It was fun.
Yeah. I'm sure it wasn't fun all the time because not everyone was happy about having to have all their tickets on their phone. So kudos to you. So your question. So explain your question one more time for me.
So can you explain like some benefits that are provided to full-time employees, as this is kind of like all new to us, is coming out of college, and what should we kind of like look for, if there is anything to look for, in applying or negotiating or whatever it may be when we're hired or whatever?
Great question. Great question. So, yeah, benefits are exactly what they are. It's a part of your total compensation package that makes it's what is the reason benefits are designed is to attract and retain talent, right? That's why I'm now, there are laws in place where you do have to have certain benefits for certain amount of employees, but the design of those benefits are intended just to, like I said, to attract and retain talent. And you're going to see it come in many forms. What people probably most associate with benefits are the health benefits, right? Medical, dental, vision. Most organizations have those in different forms. Most organizations will have more than one plan to pick from. So if you came on as an employee, you could see the different plans that you could pick based on what would suit you the best. Some of the other forms of benefits that you'll see is things like life insurance. That's another piece of things. So if something were to happen to you, who your beneficiaries are, things that you'd be able to make sure that your loved ones are taken care of. There's also things like retirement, so 401k, pension, flex spending accounts is another thing. Where you're able to set aside money to pay for health, medical expenses. It's all tax free. So there's a lot of these things. Again, they're very common with a lot of these. The pensions are kind of going away a little bit. You're starting to see a lot of the more employee driven type of retirement plans, like a 401k, things like that. There are some fringe benefits that you often see. Let's say you work for an organization, they may offer you complimentary tickets to games, things like that. You may see, depending on what role you come in and what the company policy is, they may pay for your relocation. They may pay for your temporary housing while you come to the new organization. There's some of these things are certainly negotiable. Some are pretty standard, and you're not able to negotiate some of the things like time away from work. So like time off. Those are things. Companies have different policies on it. Some companies even have unlimited time off. Which actually I'm kind of in favor of. I think that's the way the world's going. But you can always negotiate. If the different time off stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of room in there, and again, it gets very detailed, very fast. That's a very high level overview of some of the stuff. Another nice a fringe benefit is employee assistance programs. They call them EAPs. What that is free counseling to employees for a number of reasons. It could be something from something a little more personal to financial help, or there's this personal help type stuff that employees have access to through benefits programs. Some benefits programs even have like pet insurance and things like that. So there's things that it gets pretty complex pretty quick. So
I have another question.
Yeah.
What keeps you motivated in the sport industry? I know that when I had a couple internships, I worked with the Gaston Grizzlies, a CPL wooden bat league as well. We worked 17-hour days. They were fun, but I just want to know what kind of keeps you motivated at the Carolina Panthers.
So there's two things, right? I think my motivating factors are, and I guess I'll explain it like this. Let's say on a weekend, a nice weekend here coming up, and it's sunny and it's warm out. We go to a barbecue at a friend's house, and we're all there hanging out, and we're talking about work. And my one friend over there, he works at a bank uptown. Another guy, he's a lawyer, and they ask me what I do. I let them know that I work with the Panthers. And it's funny when that conversation is going on, they only want to talk about my work with the Panthers. You know, I mean, there's an interest there. There's an intrigue. There's an excitement around our product. I mean, our product, it's exciting. It's fun. People like to talk about it. You know, I think more intrinsically, I love the challenge. I love that I'm doing something different every day. I'm not just doing, you know, just manual data entry every single day or making sales calls. There's something new that we're able to hop on and embrace. Like I said, I've always been obviously you all love sports, or you wouldn't be, you know, in your program. Sports has always been a part of my life, and that's why I got involved. You know, it was always part of my life. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna pursue it. Might as well make some money off of it. I've been doing it long enough. And obviously, it's one of those things where there's obviously a lot of perks to working in sports, right? Like you get to go to games, you get to be around athletes, you get to do all those things. But like I said, I love the excitement around it, and I just love that it's new and fresh every day.
Thank you.
Guys, I think we got time for maybe like one more question, if anybody has one.
I'll ask another one. One of the things we kind of talked about in class a week or two ago was about negotiating a higher pay or just trying to figure out how much we're going to get paid in general. I mean, coming out of college, we've never had these full-time jobs like a career, so we don't really know what to expect. Where would you suggest starting off, and how do you navigate the difficult encounter, I guess, whenever you go to negotiate a higher pay?
Yeah. Again, it's always tough waters to tread, right? Especially when you're an entry level employee, you know, just coming out of school. I think that's challenging because you're not really sure what the market is for those certain roles. I will say that you know, anytime a position, and I'm speaking generally, because anytime a position's held or posted, there's already a range set in place as it's posted, you know, and a lot of organizations aren't going to venture outside that range. So depending on a lot of what you'll be offered is based on your experience and your qualifications. I mean, and those are the big things. You know, unfortunately, you know, there's not always a ton of wiggle room. It doesn't hurt to ask. If you feel like what's been offered isn't appropriate or doesn't align with what you bring to the table. So it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't mean that the employer will go back to you, because it might already be at the upper end of what the range is for that position. Because I guess it never hurts to ask the question. So with entry level jobs, there's not always a ton of wiggle room there, to be honest. I mean, at least in my experience. But it doesn't hurt to ask. Yeah.
Brian, one of the perspectives that I've kind of seen both in my own family, my wife had a job I was sharing with the students, is just salary suppression of females because they're less confident sometimes in engaging salary discussions. I wonder if you kind of speak to our female students, speak to our students in general, how to have salary discussions confidently and with your hiring manager and with HR as well.
Yeah, let me make sure I understand the question right. It's more so how they know how to, so that females are more comfortable approaching that conversation.
Yeah, I was just sharing with during one time I worked at an institution and they weren't given any cost of living raises for multiple years. They kind of went away with it, and at that same time I had, you know, with my hiring manager was able to negotiate multiple raises while the rest of the organization was not, just getting standard raises. And I know a lot of the female people I worked with, they were waiting for the organization to come to them for that raise to come versus advocating for yourself for a raise. And I think it's my belief, it's possible that's where some of the salary suppression comes with female employees, that they're not maybe as comfortable. I'm speaking very generally and not specifically, but generally And I even shared a story with my own wife where she was told she would get a raise after 6 months, automatic. It was a standard raise, but she felt uncomfortable to go to her supervisor to remind them that 6 months came and passed, and they had just had forgotten. It was nothing nefarious or wrong. They just forgot. But she felt too uncomfortable to approach that. And eventually they recognized it and they back paid her and it was fine. But just the confidence to have conversations about salary, that they don't have to be scary. You may not get always the answer you want, but you can also feel confident to walk into those rooms and have those conversations.
Yeah. Okay. No, yeah. So 100% right. So our organization, we put a lot of effort and a good faith effort into applying our pay practices appropriately and fairly across the organization, regardless of gender, age, race, no matter what it is. To your point, if someone, I 100% agree that anyone should be able to approach that and ask that question because it's fair. There's nothing wrong with going to either HR or management to have a question on compensation. It's certainly a fair question, and you should approach that in confidence. And approach it and what makes you confident? I mean, I think just going to them and saying, hey, I deserve a raise is one thing, but to say why is also a great. I mean, that helps you. I think it creates a little more confidence in yourself. I think, like I said, hopefully employers are being a little better at being fair at providing appropriate pay for everybody. But I know that I would be 100% receptive to anyone, welcoming anyone to bring up that conversation. So I think it's if you're passionate enough about it, even if it's a little bit out of your comfort zone, I think it's worth to bringing up to administration for sure.
All right, I have one last question.
Yeah.
So I would like to get into operations, like facility stuff, and kind of work as a stadium assistant. Do you have any advice for me on a pathway that I could possibly go? Because I'm kind of lost as coming out of school. I have some event management experience, operation experience, but I see some applications that have 2 years, 3 years plus, and then I don't feel I feel like I'm qualified in my head, but at the same time, I don't know if I'm actually qualified for that position. Should I just go ahead and apply for it, or what should I do?
Absolutely, apply for it. From what I hear from you, it sounds like you have some experience. You have experience. Obviously, I would make sure that it aligns with what the minimum qualifications are for that job. But definitely apply. I wouldn't let that be a deterrent. I mean, let the hiring manager make that decision, because they may see something on your resume that connects, with maybe another element of the job that's important. So definitely apply. When you talk about what are some things that you can do to get into that area, I hit on a couple of them. It's a lot of that work does begin at the ground level. Like I said, whether it's seasonal work or internships. So. And a lot of those type of jobs don't require a ton of experience. That they 1 or 2 years, or if that, they're just looking for someone with an interest.
So when we apply to on the website Panthers.com, does that go to you, or does that go to the hiring managers of the specific positions?
It's going to go to the hiring manager.
Well, can we say thank you to Mr. Brian? What a great session. I'm so thankful for your time. I've got 2 and 3 pages of notes that I look forward to just kind of unpacking with other classes. These are some of our seniors, but now the insights you've provided, I feel like I can share these with some of our first and second year students. So I can't thank you enough for your time, and thank you for being here today.
No, I enjoy this, and I'll say you can go ahead and share my information. So if any students have any information or any questions on anything, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to provide advice and guidance where I can. So good luck with everything. Good luck with your search. Good luck with the rest of the school year. All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Brian.
you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye.
That was incredible. Man, what a great session to get the insights and interaction you guys got to have today. So real proud of you guys. And I got an email I was already creating. I'll send that over to you with Brian's contact info.
Thank you.
Great questions. Great job. Have a great Thursday. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you. I'll be back on campus next week. So I look forward to seeing you guys.
See you, Dr. Agard.
See you guys.
Bye.